What's up, everyone? We did not plan on making a video today. I had other things to do. I actually was going to go fishing today, and then this front blew through. It wasn't supposed to be raining. It's still raining. I wanted to really go frog fishing, but I ended up staying inside today. Didn't think much about it. Got home last night, and yesterday I had made this video about what happened at Table Rock. I had a lot of questions, comments from things. I didn't even think much about it. I just made a simple video of kind of explaining what went on. That's all it was. It's just a simple video, kind of like showing y'all, like, kind of recapping. I didn't really, there were some things where I wasn't going to recap the whole Table Rock, deal. We did some lives, podcasts from there. We did other things, and day one, there wasn't much to show or talk about because I only caught 2 fish. I don't think I made an excuse. I don't think anyone saw me make an excuse for it. I just didn't do good. No big deal. I didn't weigh in. I didn't think much about it. It's not the first time. It doesn't happen a lot. I'll be honest. I don't think. I remember at one point in time I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I think I don't know what it was up until that point. I know I had caught a limit in like the last, I don't even know. I can't remember the last time I didn't catch a limit in a Toyota. I think it had been 3 or 4 years. I think 3 or 4 years also, I've gotten a check in every single event. So, I mean, I didn't catch them. It happens, right? I didn't think much about it. Made a video, kind of explained why I didn't weigh in. I only had 2 fish. I didn't think I was going to be able to get a check. My co-angler on day one didn't catch anything. So we both kind of looked at each other, said goodbye, and I left. I looked at the bag line. It was giant. There's, whatever. I didn't even think twice about it. The next day, I went out there because, we kind of, not that we have to, but we're supposed to. We got co-anglers and stuff. And I kind of wanted to fish a different way. And what I mean by fish a different way, I was kind of fishing up the lake, and I drove a long ways, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna go fish all new water that I haven't practiced at all since I've been here, and just kind of get a different perspective on the lake. That's what I was gonna do. Told my guy that. I talked to my co-angler. He didn't catch anything the day before. He said, yeah, man, whatever. I said, well, yeah, we're not going to run. It's 30 degrees outside. We're not going to run 40 miles up to some place, and do it. We're going to go right across the lake. We drove less than a minute to the first spot. I ended up catching them right at the first spot. And, ended up catching a limit by 9 o'clock. Kind of struck. He ended up catching 2 on our next place we went to. And then from then on, and there's a point to that. From then on, I had like one or 2 other fish. Lost a big one in a tree. I don't think he caught another fish or had another bite for the rest of the day. Pretty simple. If I'd weighed those in with my other ones, it wouldn't have mattered. Like I said, he only caught 2 fish. Then I showed this other thing that I didn't think was a big deal either. I did have a question about it, and it was about, helping these people off this rock, or this, not really rock, the ground, but it's all kind of rock, and towing them in. And then I kind of presented a question, like, what would you do in this situation? Which is a great question. I had a lot of guys commented and were like, oh man, yeah, it'd have been hard for me if I was in the top 10 or had a chance to do really good to tow them in. I would have called someone, stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was able to say all that because I was in no contention, so I had no problem towing them in. That was around, let's see, I want to say around 2:30 when that happened. And I towed them in. It wasn't a big deal. We hadn't had a bite in hours. We weren't really catching them. We weren't going, nothing seemed like it was going to materialize throughout the day. You can kind of see the writing on the wall. No big deal. Which was cool. There was a guy in that video that talked about how I had seen another bass boat go by this boat. And apparently they did talk. He commented on one of my deals. and said he was worried about being able to get him off. My co-angler said the same thing to me too. He was like, man, are we going to be able to get this boat off there? I was like, I have no idea. We're about to find out. And I was like, I don't really feel like pulling this guy's boat across this rock. He wasn't too worried about it. I was, but it's not my boat. So I said, yeah, I'll see what I can do. Talking to the guy though, I didn't record the conversation because it was blowing so hard, and it recorded, but you couldn't hear the guy. I don't know how to explain it. I just remember going, what? Why is this guy so hard to talk? It was just the weirdest exchange. And maybe he was flustered. Maybe he was embarrassed about being stuck or whatever. But most people, all of us guys out there fishing would just go, hey man, can you give me a ride in? Can you give me a tow in? That's not how it went down. It was so awkward. I don't even know how to explain it. What was funny was I kind of talked about that, and that guy, the guy that commented that was that other boat, said the same thing. He was like, man, those guys were really hard, very difficult to have a conversation with. So I think it might have been embarrassment or just uneasiness about asking someone. I'm not too sure. But it was funny because me and my co-angler, I was like, hey, did that seem really strange to you? Like that whole, like I couldn't get him to like express what he wanted, right? And he was like, yeah. So we all felt that. So anyways, didn't think much about that. Afterwards, as I was towing him in, I was looking at my co-angler and I'm like, hey, I think I'm done after this. Are you done? And he's like, yeah. So I bring all that up because a lot of people are like, hey, I don't know if people don't watch the full video. I don't know what's wrong. Like I couldn't imagine watching 3 minutes of a 20-minute video and then commenting on something. I wouldn't say negatively, but like you're commenting on something, but it sounds to me like you didn't watch the video. Like there's comments that are like, I guess they didn't watch the whole thing, or maybe they were confused about it or didn't listen. Because I even had other people in the comments like correct them. Like, you know, hey, he said it in this, or hey, did you not listen at this part? So obviously I talked to my co-angler. Me and him talked. He was like me. He was like, he didn't care about weighing him in. He's like, this isn't going to help me. We had fished a long time. We had fished up to that point now. And like him, you spend 2 days on a lake. You don't really catch them that good. He didn't catch anything the first day. He did catch 2 with me. Then we kind of got, out of our control, but we did. We did the right thing, towed this guy in. So now an hour's out of our day on top of that we just towed this guy in, and you have a really great expectation of going and fishing a championship. And then all of a sudden things don't work out, and you're going down to the last couple minutes and you're towing some guy in, which is okay, but you're kind of, I wouldn't say defeated. That's not the word, but you're over it. You're like, hey, this is how it is. This is the tournament. I fished hundreds of tournaments. It is what it is. You're going to have these tournaments. You're going to have days like this, right? It's hard to turn around a day. It's hard to turn a day around in 35 minutes. So a lot of people were talking about there was this like giant gap of time or something that like we came in early. We came in like 35 minutes early. That's it. Like people were already checking in. They were already checking in way before us because they were first flight. We were just a little bit early on our flight. I've done that. Weighed in way earlier than this just because I either had them or something like that. We were done. We were both done. We were like, yeah, we have nothing left. That's it. It wasn't like we were giving up. I didn't think anything about this. So anyways, I ended up dumping those fish back. So it was a weird thing from certain people that like about weighing in early. Like we weighed in like 4 hours early. We didn't. I explained all that in the video. It was like 35 minutes. Most people weigh in a lot of times 10 to 15 minutes early just so they're not late because they drive back. I can't tell you how many times we drive, like on Lake of the Ozarks, we would get back super early because the waves were so bad. And you don't know how to judge that time. So weighing in at 35 minutes early wasn't that big of a deal. It's a little early, but yeah, but not. It's not like hours. Towing the boat. I was interested to hear what people thought about that. I honestly was glad to hear a lot of people say, "Hey, man, I got to fish this tournament. I'll call you in, or call somebody, or make some plans, or call a towboat, because that's a USA tow or whatever." So a lot of people were like, "Hey, man, that guy's, you got to tell that guy he understands." For me, it wasn't a big deal at the time, but yeah, the guy that actually he asked the first time was in 15th place. So I'm glad that guy kept fishing. And I'm glad, like, it worked out, guys. Like, it worked out for everyone, but I was glad he was able to keep fishing, and someone like me that was not in it was able to help the guy. So, like I said, all of it worked out. This wasn't a video of going, I don't think anyone took it as I was trying to make an excuse as to why we didn't catch him. I'm pretty sure that never got across to anyone. I was doing like a little recap of like why I didn't weigh in. Everyone asked, this was my way. This was a great way of doing it. I was able to explain it all, kind of show y'all some clips of catching them and not catching them and towing someone in and things like that. I didn't think much about it. I had one guy still, well, okay, I got two more things. One guy was a little upset that I didn't weigh in. And I was going, look, man, I've done these weigh-ins a bunch. It doesn't matter. He was like, yeah, but it would have been nice because people would have got to know why, like, or like what happened, or like you would have been able to talk on stage. And I'm like, one, I get so frustrated with guys. There's two things. I get so frustrated with guys that go up on stage and go through this whole thing on stage. And I understand they want to do it. They're up on stage, they're excited, they want to talk. They didn't catch them. They're gonna thank their sponsors. They caught 2 fish or 3 fish, and they're gonna tell them on what they caught them on. And I'm like, okay. And everyone's waiting in lines. Guys are just trying to weigh their fish in. Fish are sitting in the bag line. Guys don't get done weighing in until 6 o'clock at night because of this. And that's fine if they want to do that. I'm not that guy. I wasn't gonna do that. I don't really talk that much on stage anyways when it's leading up to until the final day, because I don't think there should be a lot of talk until the final day. And here's why. We were on Table Rock Bassmaster Open. It was the first time I ever fished Table Rock, and I made the cut. Okay, so I smoked on them for the first 2 days, and then the last day I didn't catch them. And they get me up on stage, and they are like, so tell me how you caught them, or tell me all this. And I was thinking, I'm like, well, I caught him this way really quick on the first day and this way really quick on day 2. I'm really not going to talk about day 3 because I didn't really catch him. And I was like, in my head, I was going, what am I going to do? Talk about my phenomenal bait that I had on day 3 that didn't catch them that good? Right? Or when you don't catch them and you talk about baits, you're not doing yourself a favor. In fact, you're going, oh, this is the bait I threw. I only caught 2 fish on it all day long, and everyone should go get this bait or whatever. And I'm like, no, maybe the other 100 guys that actually caught them, right? Maybe I want to hear about those guys' baits, not the bait that you caught 2 fish on, right? So, I mean, that's the way I look at it. I want to hear about the guys that actually smoked on them, not the ones that didn't. Just saying, like, sorry, but that's the way I feel. So yeah, I don't care that someone caught 2 fish. I wouldn't care if I only caught 2 fish. Right? I don't want to listen to what you did. Obviously, what you were doing wasn't working. So whatever I was doing on day 1 wasn't working. And it obviously wasn't even working to get a check, because I didn't make that top 40, even to get a check. What am I going to talk about? What am I going to go up on stage about? I throw the fish back. Let some other people weigh in. What was funny was he was telling me this after watching my video. I created a platform for myself. I don't need MLF's platform. I don't need their stage. I don't need their weigh-in to get why I didn't do it. I get 2 minutes. 2 minutes would be a long time up on stage talking. I got 20 minutes on YouTube and my platform to talk to everyone. If you don't want to hear it, you can turn it off. That's the great thing about this. You don't have to listen to it. But if you want to, you can listen to the whole video, and I was able to express and show everyone what went on. Didn't think much about it. Last one, I'll make it quick. The other one was talking about my calling and me letting him catch my fish that I was fishing for or something. Okay, there are times in tournaments where I can pull up on a spot and I can say, hey, we can both throw out there and catch them on every cast. Okay? Now that's rare. It happens on Rayburn, Toledo. Most lakes, that almost never happens. Most lakes, I rarely can say, hey, throw in there and catch a fish. Okay? This was table rod. This was already hard. Guys were not catching tons of fish. And I wasn't, I was like, what do you mean let him catch the fish I was fishing for? I was live scoping a lot of them. So what was I going to do? Point my live scope and go, hey, throw in that spot. And then work a bait, not watching live scope. And I have to relay that all day long. Never going to happen. He would zero. He would zero doing that. Heck, I almost zeroed doing that. I didn't catch very... If I can see everything going on and I'm doing it, how am I going to get someone else in the back of the boat that can't come up to the front of the boat and actually be successful at that? That makes no... I'm trying to be not... That makes no sense. Okay? You're asking me to do... One, you weren't even in the boat. You don't know... Like, how do you even know what I was doing? He didn't even have what I had rigged up. I do these videos sometimes, and we make podcasts with some of these guys on a professional level, and we're trying to explain things that happen. We try to give you all an inside view, right? A backstage pass, if you will. Like when I have Watson and Ish on the other day, we were trying to give you a backstage pass over 3 guys that have somewhat done this for a long time and give you an inside view as to what's going on. When I do these videos, I'm not out here like some of these other guys on YouTube trying to make this like make-believe scene where all you see is like some fish catches and wow, look over there. And you don't see the behind the scene things. You don't see the behind the scene things where a guy calls a buddy up on a lake, you know, a YouTube guy, and he's like, hey man, how do I go catch these fish? That guy tells him, and then the guy on YouTube goes out there and catches them all and makes it act like he figured it all out. Okay? I don't do that. That's why I show so much tournament stuff. It's why I made series like the Alabama Waters and things like that, so you can see the process that goes through it. Okay? So I'm trying to show you all a process that goes through it. And I don't know where in the world it came up to where like I can just tell someone to cast a certain place and they catch them. And I mean, we're on a tough lake at a tough time of the year. Guys are out there in the top 10, you know, throwing at fish, single fish in 50 foot of water, you know, 100 foot of water, 50 foot down, trying to catch a fish. It's very difficult. It's why coinlers had a very tough time catching fish at times. Right? So, I don't really know how to respond to that one. That one's a tough one, but that's not reality, is all I can say. That's not that it can be at times, but for the most part, 99% of the tournaments I fish, that's not reality. It's not a guide trip. Even on a guide trip, it's hard sometimes to get that. But guide trips don't happen during tournaments after guys have been on the water for 6 days. No one was out there guiding that day. Okay? And a lot of times in guide trips, it's not a fish catching deal. Most of the time in guide trips, you got the guy up there right in front of you and you're explaining, showing people how to do stuff. Like if I've ever guide tripped, it's not a fish catching guide trip deal. We catch fish, even though I don't guide it. I try not to guide. I didn't guide it all this year. I guide once or twice a year at most. And it's usually to semi-buddies or people I know. A lot of times it's been to co-anglers I've had that want to come back and do something that they saw with me. And they're like, hey, can we do this? But they're up there and we're literally showing them how to do things. And you can't do that from the back of the boat, just randomly, hey, throw out there and catch that fish. No, I threw out hundreds of fish and they would just turn away. just sometimes guys, and I'd say 99% of y'all get it. And this is probably the video for the 1%ers. But I mean, instead of looking at it from this like very, I would say, very closed-minded way of looking at it, try to take some of these videos and open your mind. Read some of the comments from guys. Because you can see the guys that are like, yeah, like they totally understood the whole video. They totally understood all that. So, I'm not saying to follow the crowd, but sometimes listen to the crowd, and you might get more from it. They're like, okay, well, man, I don't know. So that's the video I was going to put out today, or wasn't going to put out today, and ended up putting out today. So, anyways, I enjoyed that video. The video I made on Table Rock was really awesome. It was really cool to show y'all something different, and I show y'all sometimes really good tournaments. I showed y'all a bad one. I try to show y'all everything. I didn't realize that, man, not weighing in a fish or weighing in or checking in 35 minutes early so I could get on the road after I'd been there for 6 days and it just didn't seem like it was going to happen was a big deal. I didn't realize that. It was funny to me too, because when I got back to the boat ramp, I kind of got there early and I was like, where are all the trucks at? There were like 6 trucks that had already left. And I talked to a lot of guys. If you look on day 2, a lot of guys didn't weigh their fish in. I talked to them. They all dumped them. Like I said, none of us even thought twice about it. We were like, yeah, man, I'm going to sit there and weigh in line for another hour. And we didn't catch them. On to the next one. Like I said, I've made the Toyota Championship every year since like 2000 and whatever. Now there's some years, there was one year I didn't go, and then one year when I fished the Opens that I didn't fish all of them. Okay, so one year I just chose not to go, and then another year I was like, I made the top 10 the one event I fished, but I think it was like 3 years ago I didn't make it because I didn't fish them all. Other than that, every single time I've fished since like 2010, I've made the championship. I've qualified for it. It's not like, I don't even consider it to be that big of a deal, to be honest with you. Like, it's cool. I'm just going there to freaking win a bunch of money because the Toyota Championship gives away a bunch of money. It's awesome. Love it. It's free. Some guy said, it's no big deal. You paid your money. All you did was spend some money. I'm like, no, I didn't. No, it's free. I didn't pay my money to fish that thing. It's free. That's why it's an awesome event. It's what a champion should be. Pays back a whole bunch of money, and it's free. So, yeah. But, yeah. That was my Table Rock Championship recap video of what went on, why I didn't weigh in. This is my recap to the recap, and hopefully there's not another recap from people that kind of understood what it was. I'm out.